Do you ever wonder why nobody actually plays the Egyptian gods besides me? I enjoy playing them. I think they're fun cards, especially when it comes to Obelisk. But today we're going to be reacting to another video by Dzeeff, why nobody plays the Egyptian gods. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with many YouTube channels. Please support the creator in the pinned comment description down below. Let's get into this video for today.
I usually bring up Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon when I want to look at a card that looks good on paper to a lot of casual players, but isn't good in the competitive scene. And
what? I always thought that was a good card. Maybe it's because it's past my time. I stopped playing around after the HAP format was no longer a thing.
Part of the reason that I think Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon has this reputation of being such a big piece of casual bait, if that even exists.
I didn't even know that it was really used for casual bait. Is it supposed to get the people like to want to play the game or something?
Is because Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon is a perfect example of a card that looks really good if you only consider its impact while it's on the board. What I mean by that is that if you skip the entire deck that you have to put it in...
Okay, I see. It gets a little more complicated there, and it's not always like the best option, right?
Summoning condition, and you only look at what it is when it's on the field, then yeah, of course it's going to look good. And
I don't even think it's that like difficult to get out, to be honest with you. It's like, yeah, you just use the proper requirements.
I think another set of monsters that is probably an even better example of this is the Egyptian gods. Now, these cards are iconic. They obviously appeared in the original Yu-Gi-Oh anime.
And yeah, everybody loves these. And I gotta say, like, I like all of them besides Ra. I'm a big fan of Obelisk. Slifer's fun depending on depending on the deck build. Like, I found it very useful in a frog type deck, but I'm a big Obelisk guy.
Not only played by the hero, but also the villain. And they're not competitively viable. They basically never have been outside of Obelisk, making some fringe tops at regionals.
That's me. Using my Frog Monarch cards. I always cycled in either Slifer or Obelisk, but I used Obelisk more often than Slifer.
Way back in the day. I'll talk about those in this video. But I wanted to make a video talking about why people don't play the God cards in any sort of competitive or rogue sense. Because I think that a lot of the same philosophies that Chaos Max has and that the God cards have can actually be applied to pretty much any sort of general deck building skills. And I think that's cool. I think when we can kind of look at these iconic monsters that have crazy effects potentially and huge attack points, and then sort of compare why those cards aren't good to sort of modern day cards, or even...
Yeah, I mean, like, you could just chalk that up to power creep. Like, the cards are getting better and better and better, and all of a sudden, like, these cards used to be so powerful, and now they're like... now they're just like your average card. It's like, you know what, that's okay. Like, Raw's straight up bad.
And other boss monsters from when they were around, I think we can learn a lot. So let's start off by taking a look at Obelisk, because it's by far the best one. So the first thing...
And man, like, the artwork for that one, the way they redid these, I love them as well.
You have to know about the Egyptian gods is that they all have the same sort of normal summoning effect. So first off, they require 3 tributes to normal summon them. You can't...
And that, I found absolutely no issue. That Treeborn Frog, Ronin Tonin, something else, maybe an enemy controller, whatever you had on the field, a Dupe Frog, something like that. The 3 was not a problem with what I use the Obelisk cards in.
Can't set them. And then this card's normal summon can't be negated. So they all have that effect. They also all have the when normal summon, cards and effects cannot be activated. So those are all good things.
To be honest with you, I'm also shocked that there's never been some stupid rule to get around that. Like, oh, actually, this specific card gets around it because Obelisk proper summoning requirements, blah, 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 blah.
Except for the 3 tributes. Obviously, 3 tributes is not good. Some of the best cards in the game can have 1 or 2 tributes, but you would have to have a really insane payoff for 3 monsters to be tributed. Because
yeah, and oftentimes, like, I just spoke about it being like no big deal. Okay, my Ronin Tonin, my Treeborn Frog. Typically, getting rid of 3 monsters is a really big deal and not worth it.
3 monsters being tributed means that anytime you summon a god card, you are taking a straight -3 in card advantage. And I know that to casual players, card advantage simply doesn't matter to them. But look at it.
Yeah, it's like, get me my Obelisk on the field. I want to play with this Egyptian god right now.
This way. Say you're going first. You have 5 cards. And you have 3 cards that let you special summon them to your side of the field. Let's say it's like Gillosaurus or something. So you have a way to put 3 monsters on the board on the very first turn, and now you have Obelisk and 1 other card in hand.
Yeah, I was about to say that, like, you're left with absolutely nothing in your hand, so you're relying on that one particular god card to work.
From there, you normal summon the Obelisk, tributing the 3 monsters, and end your turn. you've now lost 3 cards without your opponent even doing anything. So
and nowadays, especially, like nowadays, they'll find a way to get rid of that in a heartbeat.
at this point, if your opponent gets rid of the obelisk, which they very easily can, not only with newer cards like kaijus, but also older cards like Dark Hole and Mirror Force, if they get rid of the obelisk, you're now looking at a 1-card hand.
Yeah, then you just have to scoop. Then you're just done playing. Just move on to the next game. I would never, I mean, it depends on like what your build is, right? Obelisk, when I used it, was just like an extra tool. It's like, okay, I have 3 monsters I can get rid of. I don't feel like playing a Monarch right now.
Your opponent's 5-card hand, and that's obviously not going to put you in a very good spot. Now, I mentioned Obelisk can be taken out by Dark Hole and Mirror Force, and that's because it does have a sort of neat protection effect, especially for when it originally came out.
I always thought that was kind of dumb, to be honest with you. It's Obelisk the Tormentor, man. We can get rid of it by like something as simple as Mirror Force. I don't know. That always rubbed me a little bit the wrong way.
As a playable card. So Obelisk can't be targeted by spells, traps, or card effects. That's kind of cool, and that's part of the reason that it actually saw play. So it saw play in a frog deck. Frogs are very good at putting out tribute material, so that's
me.
not super surprising. It also randomly saw play in a Dragon Ruler deck or two, just because Dragon Rulers didn't have a lot of non-targeting removal.
It's funny how like it just these cards just randomly pop up here and there. But now I know it has the support, and the support's okay for it. It just can't really keep up to like any sort of modern deck.
So you could summon Obelisk and sort of win some games there. Neither of those picks were super popular. They just saw like a top or two. But it is worth noting that Obelisk did see play because of that bonus.
But another
effect.
thing about the
Also,
Obelisk thing, oh, excuse me, sorry about that. Another thing, like when we're talking about like just randomly like slipping into different builds here and there are so many much better like 2 tribute cards that you could use in place of an Obelisk or a Slifer.
Return during the end phase. If this card was special summoned, send it to the graveyard. So Obelisk and Slifer both have that sort of drawback. It's to prevent use from special summoning these cards with stuff like Call the Haunted or Monster Reborn and just winning the game. I don't think that requirement or that restriction is necessary to make these cards not too overpowered. I don't think they
agree, like because now you can just pretty well you have all the most powerful monsters of all time with all the built-in self-protection of all time, and like these god cards are no longer feeling like they're gods.
Be too broken if they actually could stay around, but it's worth noting that they do have that, so you can't really try to cheese them out. And if you do try to special summon them, you'll have to keep special summoning them every single turn with a different card effect, which is kind of annoying. Also, you can tribute 2 monsters to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. This card cannot declare an attack the turn this effect is activated.
I don't think I've ever used that effect in my entire life. I can't even think about it. I always like forget it's there.
That effect is just terrible. I mean, it's laughable at best. It's basically a worse Lightning Vortex, because like the whole point of Obelisk is that it's doing a bunch of damage at 4,000 attack. So that's really bad. But Obelisk isn't the worst of the bunch.
But you got to think about it too. Like they're really like showing grace to the anime show. That was an ability that was like the biggest deal in the world when Kaiba was using it, right? But I like it in that scenario.
So if we move on to Slifer, Slifer has all these same normal summon effects, but it has no attack points unless you have cards in your hand. So Slifer gains 1,000 attack and defense for each card in your hand. And if you take a look at that first turn 5-card opening that I talked about with Obelisk, you can see why Slifer starts to look pretty rough. Because
yeah, there were so many times where I found myself with Slifer stuck at like 2,000, and then you'd have to protect him.
At best, this thing, I mean, I would say for Slifer to be good, you would want it to have more than 3,000 attack, but Obelisk has 4,000, so we're really shooting for 4,000.
Okay, I get that, but if you have like a good, decent background, like depending on what builds you have, I think the secondary effect of Slifer is worth like, considering it over Obelisk, because I really, really like that.
And in many cases, even the decks that are playing Slifer like casually are going to be hard pressed to somehow summon 3 pieces of tribute fodder and have Slifer in hand, and have 4 other cards in their hand.
They can get away with that. I've worked with Slifer having 2,000. You just need to do a little bit to protect him.
It's just,
and then you're stuck because you can't do anything else because you want to keep the cards in your hand.
Not going to happen. Slifer's other effect is sort of control-oriented, so when a monster is normal or special summon, it loses 2,000 attack, and if the attack goes to 0 by that effect, it's destroyed. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's kind of misplaced. I would have much rather seen Obelisk have that effect.
Because I don't know. I think it suits Slifer. I don't know. I like it as is, to be honest.
Slifer is more of just like an OTK all-in sort of card, but when Obelisk was played, it was played in sort of control decks. It was supposed to control the board until your opponent eventually found a way to out it.
Yeah, fair enough, actually. Fair enough.
I think
but I still stand on my point.
Obelisk would have almost made Obelisk playable, although we'll never truly know because they're on two different cards. But Slifer is sort of in the middle here. It's not the worst card. It's not the best card. The truly worst one is the Winged Dragon.
Dude, I have never even considered using this card ever.
Ra. So the Winged Dragon of Ra has all these regular effects. However, it can't be special summoned at all. That's worth.
And yeah, and the anime show hyped it up too, to be like, okay, this is the most powerful god card of all time. You better watch out when this thing hits the field. This is a bad boy.
Except that you probably wouldn't want to special summon this thing anyway. The only time that Ra has attack, it's not based on cards in your hand, but when it's normal summoned, you pay life points so you only have 100 left, and then it gains the attack that you paid. That's not that good. Other than just one-shotting your opponent, this card is almost always just going to lose you the game.
And you have to, like, make sure you hit them with that attack.
It's extremely risky, not to mention that when you use that effect, you're just leaving yourself open to, as long as your opponent can somehow do 100 damage, even if they have a copy of Sparks, they can kill you.
Sparks? Could you imagine getting finished by Sparks after all of that? Dude, that's so could have happened back in the day. I don't know, like, back when, I don't recall when these were playable, but, like, as kids, too, yeah, everybody just used the cards with the effects before they were actually playable. Just someone hits you with Sparks.
That's really rough. But also, the Winged Dragon of Ra is just really off balance. Its second effect requires you to have lots of life points. I mean, its second effect is you can pay 1,000 life points and target one monster from the field, destroy that target. Now, that's not a once per turn effect, but you have to pay all your life points to summon this thing in the first place. So
yeah, I don't understand what, like, they made it so powerful in the show, right? And didn't they have, like, a bunch of secret abilities? I don't recall. But this is such, like, an actually legitimately horrible card.
It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Once again, I don't know why that effect isn't on, like, Slifer instead, because that would at least sort of make sense. But you can see here, I mean, I guess, okay, I understand the casual argument. The casual argument is, okay, Dzeeff, I'm going to summon 3 monsters. I'm going to tribute them all for Ra. It's going to be 7,900 attack points. And then I'm going to use the rest of the cards in my hand to increase my life points back to 8,000. Flawless combo.
What? No. They need to deal 100 points of damage to you. Imagine having a card where it's like, okay, to use this, we're going to make myself lose 7,900 points.
The problem is that the decks, or the people that are going to be playing Ring Dragon of Ra, are going to be playing the jankiest decks possible, so it's never going to happen. And also, you're talking about like an 11-card combo.
Well, I mean, now we have support for the God cards. Now we do, but it's still not nearly enough, and Ra's not worth it.
Basically do what Obelisk does, just slightly better. It's just absolutely crazy. A Winged Dragon of Ra is just utterly terrible. I just can't believe this card is so bad. And the fact that...
Yeah, imagine looking at an actual God card, the ones that were, like, so iconic from the game, and just looking at that, and it's actually... It's just bad. It's flat out bad. There's no other way to describe it.
It has, like, one effect that spends all your life points, and one effect that wants you to have a ton of life points. Is just really dumb card design. So at the end of the day, all these cards sort of have a really bad return on investment. You're losing 3 cards.
That's actually a really good way to put it. The return on investment isn't worth it for most of them, but I will argue, like, depending on the build, Slifer and Obelisk could be worth it. The Winged Dragon of Ra is almost never worth it.
To summon these, and they don't do anything when they hit the board. High attack points and protection is simply not enough to build a deck around these cards.
And these were also, like, made for, you know, the formats when they first came out, when, like, having a 4,000 beat stick was something, like, pretty significant on the field. Now it's nothing.
We learned that with Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon, which has the same protection as Obelisk, basically, and more protection than Slifer and Winged Dragon of Ra.
But I feel like that's just easier to get out. Yeah, I don't know. The only thing that I disagree with this video is I don't agree with really the comparison, but I get the point that he's making.
And it's easier to summon, and that card is still not worth it. I can't believe I would ever be saying that Chaos Max Dragon is better than a set of cards, but in reality, if you're trying to play a big iconic monster and sort of cheese some wins, which you want to not lose every single game, you probably should play Chaos Max Dragon instead of...
Yeah, absolutely. And it also has, like, cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. That's something very particular with Yu-Gi-Oh! That we like to talk about. Oh, it contains the word target.
The god cards. And yes, there are some support cards for the gods. There's like the Ra's Disciple, that's kind of neat. But in general, nothing can really make these cards better. Because none of these cards gain you advantage, but they require you to already be...
Well, now you have things like Mound of the Bound Creator, and I think that's what it's called, the field spell. But there's some decent support there you can make them work.
In an advantageous state. They're just really awkwardly positioned. There's almost never a time when you would want to trade 3 on-field cards to summon to waste your normal summon, really.
Unless it's something like this, unless it's something like Ra's Disciple, unless it's something like a Treeborn Frog. It needs to be a very specific build.
On a god card instead of like a Link summon, or instead of a Seed summon, or a Synchro summon, or even just attacking with the monsters that you have on
Well
field.
said.
There are so few cards in the game that you would want to tribute them for the god cards instead of making some sort of extra deck summon, or even just a better tribute summon. There are plenty of good tribute summon cards out there. It's really hard.
Yeah, like I said earlier, why would you sacrifice 3 monsters when oftentimes it can get the job done with 1 Monarch? Or an odd, I think it's Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. There's an Odd Eyes Dragon that I always use in my Frog Monarch deck. The name's escaping me at the moment. Again, been out of the game for a while. But 2 stars Light and Darkness Dragon, 2 stars, or 2 tributes, 1 tribute. Oftentimes you're going to get a better result than the actual god cards.
It's not super fair to compare these to like Masterpiece, but really Masterpiece takes 2 tribute summons. Its protection effect is better than any of these cards. It impacts the board, it gains advantage. It's just infinitely better than any of these cards, and it's probably not fair.
And I wish I could comment on this, but I am not familiar with this card at all.
Do that comparison just because Masterpiece was released so long after. But it is a shame because the god cards are iconic, and compared to a lot of the other iconic cards in the game, they're simply way more unplayable. If you take a look at like...
It's just like, I don't know, they are iconic, they're more iconic, but I feel like that's what they're more meant to be than their actual like cards that you're supposed to play. They would need a heck of a lot more support.
Dark Magician and Blue Eyes, they both have their own dedicated decks. You can at least play those cards. Even Exodia, which is probably on the same sort of power level in the anime as the god cards, even Exodia had playable strategies around it and has had tournament success. But it's so hard to build a deck around the god cards and see any sort of success.
You know, I'm sure that at some point they're going to be releasing even more support that'll make it playable, make it absolutely broken. Like, I don't know, a field spell card is like, if you control Obelisk the Tormentor, this, and this happens, and you just win the game, basically.
Outside of a casual setting, which doesn't exactly count. I mean, I have nothing against sort of the casual decks and the casual tournaments and stuff, but any deck is viable in those, so it's not really worth sort of analyzing the strategies that work in those environments, because any strategy will work. Therefore, that, of course, a card like Ring Dragon of Ra can work in those scenarios, because anything can. Anyway, that's going to wrap up my discussion. I think
and I thought that was very well said when it comes to the god cards. I really, really enjoyed that video. Guys, please go show the creators some love down below. I will continue with my journey, Edison format, hat format. I'm going to be mixing in my Slifer, my obelisks, and we're going to leave that weirdo Winged Dragon errata there. I'm good, man. But you know how I talked about earlier, the targeting thing got a little bit frustrated with, like, you know, the specific text of Yu-Gi-Oh? Then you can check out this video that I made on the dumbest rulings of all time. You got to check out the video. It's probably one of my best. Thank you for watching, everybody. Take care.